Hi, welcome. Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Steph Jean Davis, CMH _ Sonali. We're going to be starting soon. I'm just jumping on early because I'm an early bird and I'm ready to have this conversation. I don't know about you. It's time. I'm ready. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you had a good day and you're also ready to just jump in and ask questions when we have Q&A. Yes, you had a good day? That's awesome. Where's everyone coming from? Is this Pacific Standard Time? Is it Eastern Time? Is it Central Standard Time? Like, where are you located? Doing okay. You're in LA? What? I'm in LA. I'm in West Adams. Shout out to Normandy. I probably shouldn't say that on a live. That's awesome. You're also in California, Santa Cruz? What? That's crazy. Welcome, KT Lou. I'm the worst. Yes. That's awesome. We need to do a meetup. Boston? Okay. I like Boston. I've never seen snow, so I'll try to go when it's like November, December, but you know, it never works for me. It's always rainy and nasty. No offense. Shout out to Boston. No. I'm just telling the truth. I'm just being honest. Just being honest. I wonder if Annice is on. She said she's going to join. Nope, she ain't on yet. She's the queen. I don't know. I want to go back to Boston. The 2 times I went, it was like 2 events. I just went to an event and left. So I honestly didn't stay. So you would know. You would know what's up. You guys, I'm excited for this conversation. I don't know about you, but it's been interesting. It's a great city, but winters are the worst. Yeah, I want to check it out, but I'm in LA, so who knows? I probably don't know what I'm talking about. I need to see the snow in LA. That's the first thing I need to do, to be honest with you, because I haven't done that. So CM _ Somali, you said that you're in Santa Cruz, California. Did you have a good day? Hey, Champagne Franny. I love it. I love the names. Let me know if I'm not pronouncing anything right. But we're kind of waiting. We're joining the call soon. We're waiting on Annice. We're also seeing how everyone's day was. And also where you calling in from. Yes, you had a good day? Awesome. Champagne Franny, did you have a good day? This is so weird. I wish people could talk back to me. Instagram needs to get it together. I'm glad you had a good day. My day was okay. Like Steph. Uh-oh. I should probably have some music on. I'm being a little awkward, so I apologize. Did you have a good day, Champagne Franny? Am I saying your name right? You did? Okay. What? You're in... Oh my God. This is crazy. You're in Los Angeles? And your day felt... Oh, man. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you for hopping in and coming in before the live begins. I'm sorry your day was down, but I feel that. That was me yesterday. You know, sometimes people... For me, anyway, people want us to feel like it's not okay to be okay, but sometimes it is okay to not be okay. We just need to sit in what's happening so we can understand and move on, or understand and work through it. So I appreciate you being vulnerable early on. Cool. Absolutely. I love it. All right. I'm just like, where's Annice? Where's Annice? Try, but I will be listening through car speakers. Oh, okay. That's what's up. What? Seriously. There's so much to feel. Man, I don't even, y'all, there's so much. I can't even articulate my thoughts. This is why Annice is going to be on the call. Because I cannot. And I appreciate you, Champagne Franny. I don't know if you want me to call you that, but that's your name on Instagram, so I'll call you that. Listening on the car, that's really cool. I hope my voice doesn't come off as echoey. I get that a lot whenever I'm recording. So let me know. All right, let me see what time is it. I wonder if I can check. Great, I'm back. Sorry, y'all. I was checking the time. I'm back. So, tell me more, CMH_Somali, when you say there's so much to feel. What do you mean by that? I mean, I know what you mean, but what specifically do you mean? Because I'm over here we need to get it together as a nation. These delay responses are killing me. All right. Well, let me double check and see if our girl is on. She's coming on soon. Awakening to race. Wow. That's deep. Wow. It's crazy, right? It's pretty crazy. It's like another world. It's almost like when you awaken to something, you feel like you're betrayed. I don't know about you, but for me, when I realize what the hell is going on and it's your responsibility, I don't feel that way. It's everyone's responsibility, right? But I appreciate you being accountable, because Lord knows we need people to be accountable. And there's more that we have to do. There's more. There's a lot of collective understanding, collective agreement upon what racism means for us to actually solve the problem, right? One of the issues, in my opinion, is that people don't understand what racism means or what is actually happening. So we're all everywhere, all over the place, trying to solve different problems. And we're less impactful and less effective. So I believe that we need to connect each other so that way we can solve the same problem, right? We say, hey, this is the identified problem and this is exactly what we need to be doing. This is the thing that we need to be working on, right? And when we do that, we can unite and we can rise up. Pun intended. So shout out to my California folks. Hey, Annice. Hey, my girl is on. So I'm going to... This was a good intro conversation. She's connecting. So Annice.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just having, I hope you can see okay, there we go. You look gorgeous. I'm loving the look, as always. Just having some conversation with folks who are on. We have a lot of California folks from Santa Cruz. We got LA, people driving in the car. Some people have some good days. Some people are feeling a little, down. Some people have an awakening to racism. So I'm sure it's going to be rich whenever they hear all the things that you're hearing, that you're going to say. So I'm excited. You all, let's just go ahead and begin. And just to be honest with you, we're going to kick it off a little different with a moment of silence. There has been a collective grief happening in the homes of so many people. Welcome, welcome. So many people in this country, right? We know about George Floyd recently. We know about Ahmaud, right? We understand that there are people like Amy Cooper who is doing the things and trying to use her, whatever word you like to use it as, advantage to oppress and knowingly know what she is doing, right? We understand that there's also a pandemic. Like, this is crazy. We've never been in a pandemic before unless you're 101 years old. Shout out to Annice who says that. And so we're dealing with that. There's so much happening. It's time for us to just really pause and just allow ourselves to allow the love, the healing, the peace that we send people ourselves that are dealing with these things right now. So let's just pause for 1 minute and let's just honor the collective grief and just have a moment of silence. So we'll do that for 1 minute. I'm going to close my eyes. I don't know about you. Okay. That was nice. It was like a meditation moment there.
Yeah.
So just wanted to honor those folks, right? Just so that we start the right way and we're acknowledging what's happening. Welcome, folks who just jumped in. So we're going to go ahead and begin. My name is Rose Francois. I am the founder of Arising Up, and I am super excited to have my good friend, Dr. Annice E. Fisher, here with us, who has a wealth of knowledge. She is a mindset coach. She is an educator. She teaches. There's so many things that she does. She's an entrepreneur. She'll share all the things. But just wanted to say, like, I'm really excited to have you, Annice. It's an honor. Let's just jump in. So as we think about this current state that we are in, what's on your mind, Annice? What reflections do you have about our current state right now?
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you, Rose, for having me. Thank you for creating this space, on your platform for us to have a conversation right now. People are feeling stuck. Many of us, I don't believe we are stuck, but people are feeling stuck. There's a feeling of a lot of loss of control, feeling of ambiguity. And so creating spaces for us to be able to have conversations to name and own the real emotions behind what we're feeling, while at the same time engaging in conversations about what type of strategies we can take in order to move the needle forward. I think it's important to have this both in conversation. So thank you for doing that on Arising Up. And so just to give you some background about me before I jump right into answering that question. So my background, I am first and foremost, I teach conscious leadership as a tool for advancing equity. What does that mean? My goal in this world is to create a space where everyone has the opportunity to live in their full potential. And in order to do that, I believe we have to both do inner healing as a person, and then we also have to think about how do we begin to improve the systems in our society. And so my day work, I teach conscious leadership in a variety of different ways. One of them is I'm a faculty member at American University in their doctoral program in education, where I oversee the executive coaching program on conscious leadership, as well as teach conscious leadership to system level leaders. And then in my two businesses, excuse me, Rose shared that I was an entrepreneur. I work with organizations to teach conscious leadership for equity. It's a framework to help organizations essentially develop their people, to improve their policies and processes so that they can integrate diversity and equity and inclusion throughout the entire fabric of the organization. And then my heart, my baby, is the Be Free Woman, where essentially I work with women, all types of women from all different backgrounds. And we focus on three things: honoring your identity, of who you are, that's both your ethnicity, all the aspects of how you identify. And we then teach you tools via conscious leadership to be able to help you to shatter any glass ceilings that may be threatening your progression as a woman. The newest title that I'm adding as author to me, I just finished a book called, thank you, called The Power Within Me, The Road Back Home to the Real You. And essentially, hi, Diana, that's one of my students, The Road Back Home to the Real You. And this book is basically all about taking what I know works to the masses so that we can all be free, so that we can walk in our highest versions of self with the hope of advancing equity. So I just want to paint a background so people know who I am and why I have the authority to speak on these topics. So what do I feel is going on in the world right now? You know, as you said before, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Excuse me. In the US, we haven't seen the pandemic peak yet, right? So we're still in the heart of a pandemic, where this pandemic has magnified what we already know is true, which there is inequitable access to healthcare in poor communities. We know that preconditions are creating a statistic that, you know, people of color, not that they're more likely to contract COVID-19, but they're more likely to die from COVID-19 because of pre-existing health conditions, that are often traced back to food deserts, which is often traced back to poor resources, right? That are allowed to flow into those communities. So we're at this place in the world where we see this pandemic happening, right? A lot of uncertainty. All the systems that we thought were certain are starting to fall around us, right? The education system is trying to figure out how do you adjust online, right? You have the economy is in a state of question mark with unemployment. Everything that can be shaken is being shaken. That's just the pandemic. And I want to point something out. I'm going to cough throughout this because I have asthma. And that's what I always tell people. That's, I guess, a bonus gift for growing up poor and Black in the city of Chicago on the South Side, right? That's what happens when you don't have, you know, proper systems and supports where you live. But anyway, so we have that going on. Then we have, you know, in the past 2 weeks, it seems like the racism that we already know was happening now is starting to crank up another level, and we are seeing, you know, a Black man running, like anyone should be able to run, you know, was killed in a hate crime. Then, you know, we are now finding out that what we already knew is that there was not adequate supports going to our Native communities, right? The Navajo Nation has the largest rates of COVID-19 in the country, but no one's talking about that, right? We had an attack on a synagogue. We had Amy Cooper doing, I don't know what the HE double hockey stick she was doing, but using her white privilege. Let's just, she knew exactly what she was doing, had no problem with it because he said, leash your dog, right? In Central Park, knowing what happened. And then the ironic part for me, and I don't know if anybody else felt this, but when you think about the Central Park Five and those 5 brothers that lost years of their life, wow. For her to commit such an atrocity, such a hate crime in Central Park after we are still healing from that. And then we have the senseless murder of George Floyd. So I got exhausted just talking about this, right? So this is the state of where we all are. And the key part is we have to be able to hold the collective grief of what's actually going on. We have to be able to hold this grief, this moment in time that's actually happening right now, and not try to brush it away as if it's not happening. And, you know, as a Black person, I'm really feeling it. You know, as I have brothers, I have nephews, I have Black men that are important in my life. Breonna Taylor was a Black woman. I mean, it's just, you feel the squeeze. And I think that can happen to any brown person. You know, I watched outside of my door a week ago a police stop that could have gone wrong that I actually recorded because I was fearful of this Egyptian and Black man. So I relived the trauma of essentially watching the police officer pull these kids over with his hand on his gun. And I just lost all fear and recorded it because I was like, it's not going down on my watch. I need to record this in case it goes wrong. Right. Thank God it did not go wrong, and a Black officer came and de-escalated. So I had to relive that trauma, right? So this is a lot of what we all are experiencing, but everybody's experiencing it different. I think my white brothers and sisters are also experiencing, some people are feeling a sense of paralysis and helplessness about what do I do. I know people in other Black and brown communities are also trying to figure out how can they support. So we're all dealing with this differently.
Right. Wow, that was intense. And I appreciate you being intense because we need to be, right? Because that's part of the truth. That's part of what we're learning. So with all of that that's happening, with all of the reflections, with everything that you just talked about, how can we muster up what is happening, right? There's this word that we're all using, racism, right? What is the definition of racism to you?
Okay, so I'm going to give you I study race, this is the background. So I'm going to give you the textbook version of it, but I want to make it alive for people. So oppression, let's start there. Oppression is a system of advantage and disadvantage in which one group of people and their ideology is preferenced as the primary ideology. And that then becomes the assumed norm for everybody else. And if you occupy that category, then therefore the system is set up to advantage you. Let's use race for an example. So that's a generic definition. Let's use race. So in this country, in the United States, I'm speaking in this context, United States was built on racism, right? The genocide of Native people, right? And then we had it codified in laws where whiteness determined property, it determined what you were able to, whether or not you were able to vote, all of those things, right? And so in this country, white is seen as the standard norm, as everything people should aspire to, how you behave, how you do your hair, all those things. And then you have this group of people of color, a large group of people of color, which comprises of, Black people, Asian Pacific Islanders, you have indigenous folks, you have biracial people there, right? You also have our Latinx folks. And then you have the complexity of this, right? I spent a lot of time being a huge advocate for the Arab community, right? And I saw Rula come on. Shout out to Rula Offman. She created the very first sorority for Arab women at UCLA. What a trailblazer. Got to college and was like, this isn't
Shout out to Rula.
Trailblaze. Yeah. And as a Delta, I already know what that's like. I thought about my 22 founders when she founded, but side tangent. I saw this, and that then I have my Arab brothers and sisters that are like, when people see me, I might check white on the census, but they don't treat me like that. I actually am treated. The story I was telling you about was an Egyptian man that was being, racially profiled. So I say all this to say that race is complex, but essentially it is white, and usually European looking white is seen as the dominant, right? And then everyone else falls in less than. How racism interacts is when these systems create advantage and disadvantage, right? It happens on the individual level, which is somebody creating bias act towards me. What Amy Cooper did was a hate crime, was wrong. That was individual racism, right? She called the police on Mr. Cooper because he said, put your dog on a leash. That's individual racism, okay? It happens 3 different levels. The second level is cultural, okay? That happens with what we consider to be beauty, right? Cultural racism is how we consider time, the conversation about, should you wear your hair in braids if you're going for an interview? I'm a Black woman, I like to wrap my hair at times, but that's, sometimes as Black women and we want to wrap our hair, or sisters that wear hijabs, it's like, are people going to see us as, less professional? That's cultural racism, right? Yep. Right. That's cultural racism. And then you have it at the systemic level, which is codified in our laws, the laws that, laws, that are like 3-strike laws that disproportionately impact a particular group. We're going to get into those 2 levels over the next 2 weeks. So I'm not going to go in depth about those. We're going to talk about individual racism tonight. Then you layer on top, we have anti-Black racism. We cannot say anti-Black racism when we're talking about what's going on now. Anti-Black racism is like on top of people being racist, on top of the cookie of just racism in that. You then got, because you Black, I'm doubly racist against you. And anti-Black racism is essentially like racism to another level because you're Black. So it's an X across anything that is considered Black, anti-Black. So it's a different level of racism.
Whew. That was a lot. And I actually just learned something new. I didn't know that you kind of dig deep into the anti-Black racism. And that's something that I'm still processing, to be honest with you. So thank you for that. I see that we have a question, and just a heads up, we'll have Q&A after our series of three questions that are coming up. So stay tuned. Thank you for putting the first question up. So now that we understand racism, right? It's a system, it's a culture, it's individual. There's so many parts to this. It's a lot. It's deep, right? So how can we, as individuals, right, understand what's happening inside of us? Because we talked about the reflection. How can we understand what's happening inside of us?
Yeah. So a lot of the work I do with coaching, or anybody who's ever worked with me in a coaching context, is that I believe we have to talk about our emotions. Like, we need to express our emotions. So first and foremost, you need to ask yourself what's going on in excuse me, ask yourself what's going on inside of you. What am I feeling? Right? Am I feeling frustration? Am I feeling anger? Why am I feeling those things? Okay, I know one of the things that, when you say, how do you understand what's going on inside of you? It's also understanding like your own perspective. So a lot of times people want to jump straight to action when it comes to addressing issues of racism. I'm always saying to people, you got to step back and assess yourself. Assess what's going on inside of you. And there's two things I want to bring up to the group to think about before we decide to take action. Right, action is coming. I'm gonna give you some tips tonight. So get your little post-it note, your pads.
I'll notebook, my pen.
But before then, we gotta examine ourselves, because the reason why racism still exists, and some of my students are on this call, which I absolutely love, is that racism still exists because we all hold it up. Right? Racism exists because we hold it up. We often say that, that person is racist, or it's the system against us. We all hold it up. Every time a person, whether they're black, white, blue, holds their purse, when a Latino man comes over, you're holding up racism, right? Every time that we are prejudiced against an Egyptian woman in a hijab, you're holding up racism. We hold up the threads of it, and it takes courageous action. This is why I say conscious leadership. It takes courageous action to be able to buck that. One of the ways that we uphold racism internally that we all need to examine is two things. One, if you're white, you need to ask yourself, do I have beliefs of superiority over other races? That's called internalized domination. Do I believe that white people are better? Do I believe straight hair is better? Do I believe that, you have to speak a certain way is better? That's a level of internalized domination. You are internalizing a belief of superiority over somebody. You have to ask yourself that question, like, do I have some of those beliefs? Because you want to start to address those things and tear them down so that you can begin to help us. We disrupt and deconstruct racism one piece at a time. People are feeling overwhelmed now because they feel like, I need to fix the system now. Or like, I was talking to my really good friend last night in New York, my homeboy, and he's like, I just feel like I can't do anything. And I'm like, yes, you can. It's one step at a time. So we chip away with pieces, right? The first piece is to assess yourself from the white lens. If you're a person of color, you have to ask yourself, do you believe some of those self-limiting beliefs or lies about yourself that you're less than, or that you're inferior, right? Do you believe that that you are not smart enough to be in a role, right? Or you're not smart enough to write a book? I had several, Black women and women of color say to me, Annice, you wrote this book. You're the first person of color I saw write a book. Now I know I can write a book. Wow. That shows you not that they have internalized racism, but like they just haven't seen enough people. It's like, can I really do it? Because the barrier seems so strong. But there's some of us who don't believe we're smart enough. We've heard those conversations, or we may say things like, you need to act white when you go to this situation, right? That's internalized racism. And we have to name what it is as people of color, and then we have to say, why do I believe this? And then we need to stop doing it. You stop doing it by using your power and choice. Anybody who's ever coached with me know I say you have power and choice in every situation. It's up to you to decide if you want to use it. You can determine whether or not you want to keep believing that, or when it comes into your mind, you don't say it. You say, in your head, voice, I'm not speaking it. I don't believe it. So that's how you go internal to figure out, do I have any of those beliefs where one is higher than the other? And then you got to work on that, because that's important. Right. That's how we start to tear down.
I love that idea. So we have to name it and say, I actually believe this. I'm internalizing what's happening.
Yes.
Then have to say, okay, why do I believe this? Like, where did it
Yeah.
come from, right? And so
Where?
healing is coming up, right? And
Yes.
from that, you're telling us that we should know that we have power and choice to decide not to believe what we thought was true without even being thoughtful about what was true, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. You
Wow.
have power and choice not to believe that. And one way you can start, you started talking about healing, so I'll just jump into that. One way you can start healing is to, if you believe that you're less than, one, you got to start telling yourself, Michelle Obama says this in her documentary, we can't wait for the world to value Black women. You got to believe it for yourself. And some of that's just real, right?
That's true.
Like,
That's
if I
true.
wait for somebody to honor me, I wouldn't. If I wait for my white friends to call me to say, how are you doing, Annice? It has been 0 dark 30 silence from a lot of people, that's a whole nother story. But that's not to say you have to feed it to yourself. You can read books. If you're trying to, debunk, superiority and inferiority based on race, read books by Black authors, by Arab authors, by Latino authors. Read things from different people. This is why we have to have diversity in the academy. Read different things. Go see a movie. Watch a movie in subtitles. Go to an event where you are the only person there. But please, please do not put the burden on your friends that are people of color to educate you. Because you have to be enlist somebody to help you on the journey. And you can have a person of color. But if you're white, you need some white folks with you too. That needs to be the predominant group so that you all can help support each other and have those types of internal conversations and that safety. Just like we as people of color need to gather sometimes and have that psychological safety. Safety to be able to say what we want without feeling like we're going to say the wrong thing.
Right. And I appreciate you naming that, because sometimes people feel like when we talk about safety, we get into these, racial groups, if you will, there's something wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're walking down the path of healing that you talked about. So I appreciate you saying that. The
only time it's a problem with it is if you're about to get some torches and light them and walk on a college campus. That's when it's wrong. Other than that, it's not wrong. You're not promoting hate.
Yeah, it's wrong when it's KKK. And you want to kill people that are not like you. So I just said it. I think one thing that stuck out to me when you talked about reading books was a quote that I heard. I can't remember who said it, but it was around Black people and people of color need to write more books, because when you read, you are empathetic, right? The more you read, the more you can build empathy, and you're inside somebody's mind to really understand what they're dealing with. So when you said that was powerful. So when people are thinking about how can I learn, how can I grow, reading is the way to go. So thank you.
Yeah, that's actually from James Baldwin. He talked about it. He thought at one point that he was the only person that was experiencing this, and then he started reading. He realized other people were also experiencing a lot of the same oppression.
I love it. So I love that we talked about internally, right? What we need to do before we jump out and we take action. We need to name it. We need to understand why. We need to understand that we also have power and choice in every situation.
Yes.
And once we do that, Annice, how can we move towards progress externally?
Yeah. So we have power and choice in every situation. It's up to you to decide whether or not you want to use it. Write that down, tweet it, whatever. Just give me credit for it. But you have power and choice in every situation. It's up to you to decide if you want to use it. Power is you get to choose how you use your mind, how you channel your emotions and your behaviors in any given moment. You can't choose a thought that comes into your mind. That's biological, but you can choose how long you want to let it sit there. You can redirect it. So that's power. How do you want to use your mindset? How do you want to use your behavior, your emotions? That's your power. You have a choice. Do you want to use it to advance love and trust or fear and doubt? This is the heart of conscious leadership, what I teach people. Conscious leadership is the process of being able to use your mind, your behavior, emotions to operate in that highest version of yourself, which is love and trust. Because love and trust, and love is a taboo word for people. I'm bringing it back. Love is essential. And you're going to be in this justice movement for a long time. The definition of love that I use is from M. Scott Peck and my own, which is love is the process of channeling your emotions, your behaviors, and your mindsets towards your spiritual growth or the growth of another person. So love is the process of channeling your mind, your behavior, your emotions towards nurturing your spiritual growth or the growth of another person. That's what love really is. It's not an action. It's not the action, which is what we think. And I actually write about this in the book, you know, a real plug for the book. I talk about one of the main reasons we struggle with love today is because we mislearned love as kids.
Wow.
And it's how we developed a dependency on external validation. And so that's chapter 5 in the book. Get the book because it goes deep. Anyway, so love, when you are able to, the greatest act of love is being able to choose to nurture your spiritual growth. The ability to be able to interrupt a racist comment is the nurturing of your own growth, your own spiritual growth as a better human being and being the best version of self. And it's the same thing that you're doing to another person. That's the greatest act of love, right?
Wow.
When you are able to do that, you're able to trust yourself, love and trust. You can't trust yourself without loving yourself. You can't love yourself without trusting yourself. Trusting yourself is trusting your voice. I am enough. I am capable of handling whatever task it is in the moment. This is my best guess in the moment. That's one path you can go down. That's the path I try to get people down. I'm going to increase your love of self, which then allows you to be more loving with other people. Increase your self-trust so that you interrupt actions. That's the first part. Or you can choose fear and doubt, which is what caused that officer to put his foot on the neck of somebody, put his foot on the neck of George Floyd. Fear of a black man because he wasn't controlling his body.
Unarmed.
Fear and doubt, exactly, led him to put it on him. So I'm always about helping people decrease their fear, decrease their doubt. Because what I found is that most of us have some sort of sense of when something is wrong. You feel it in your spirit, but we don't act and say something. And so I can teach you, which I will tonight, practices for interrupting racism. But if you don't believe, if you have a fear, you doubt that you're the person to interrupt the action, what I teach you will go out the window. You won't do it. That's why I got to build up your trust of self, your love of self, to nurture your growth and the growth of other people so that you can interrupt that action. That's the baseline, love and trust versus fear and doubt. We trying to get you to do love and trust.
I think that's so powerful, Annice, because a lot of times we feel this way, this reflection that we're talking about, and we run towards action, right? And we may be that person that doesn't love themselves. Amen, right? And if we don't understand what's happening inside of us, we're not as effective. We're not even doing the movement call that we're thinking we're doing because we haven't done it within ourselves.
Yeah.
I love that. And so I think it's time for questions.
I need to do one quick thing, the 4 steps. I'm going to do questions, but let me
the 4
just
steps.
Do 4
That's
steps
right. Let's learn these 4 steps, and then we'll go into
there's 4 steps to consciousness raising that I teach people. Like so the question would be, how do I walk more in love and trust so that I can trust my voice and interrupt, inequity and interrupt, actions that, perpetuate racism or sexism or whatever. And I teach people 4 steps, choice, presence, self-awareness, and intentionality. The first one is choice. You have to ask yourself, do I want to instill trust and love in myself in this moment? Do I want to use my mind, my emotions, and my behaviors to trust myself, which is the greatest act of self-love because I'm about to nurture my growth and another person's spiritual growth? Or do I want to use my power to doubt myself or to instill fear? Right? We know what it's like when we operate on fear and doubt. We know what intends that, like, you don't operate in your highest version of self. You ask yourself that question. You have a choice and power in every moment. If you say, you know what, I want to trust myself in this moment. I want to trust myself in this moment to interrupt this particular action. Simply asking yourself the question, how do I want to use my power, is going to slow you down to create a level of presence. Because presence is important because you got to check in with the current moment. A lot of people are on autopilot. Ask that question. It slows you down to create a level of presence. Then you can start to check in on yourself. That's self-awareness. You can start to think about, like, what's going on in my mind? What's happening in my emotions? Am I anxious? A lot of times, you're operating out of fear and doubt because you'll have anxiety. You'll have, feelings of sadness, a lot of negative emotions. That's how you're operating in fear and doubt. But when you choose trust and love, even if you're nervous about interrupting a comment, you have a level of peace because you're like, okay, I'm enough in this moment. I'm capable in this moment. If you operating with fear and doubt, you're probably saying, I'm not enough. I'm incapable. I'm going to be wrong, right? You check in. That's self-awareness. What's going on in all these parts of me? You've already said that you want to operate in trust and love. So now you're just asking yourself, what's going on in my mind? What's going on in my behaviors? What's going on in my emotions? What's going on around me? Like, what just happened? What's going on around me? That then allows you to do the fourth step, which is intentionality. Intentionality basically means you deploy yourself. It is a place of intentionally deploying yourself. What does that mean? I use the term deployment for a reason, because deploy is a military term to act from a place of readiness. Once you have made a choice to operate in love and trust, once you have taken it, you slowed down, you've checked in with yourself, this can all be done in the moment. Now you can act more intentionally. So if you are in an environment where someone has said an individual racist comment, someone has said, Annice sure is, looking like that black diva with those big earrings on tonight, whatever the case it may be. Now we're at the intentionality. This is where you can start picking up the tools and the practices, right? What I always encourage people to do is, first and foremost, before you interrupt, before you do all those things, right? You're making a choice that you're going to interrupt the comment. You're trusting yourself in the moment. You have to enter from a place of what my mom used to call the 3 L's: look, listen, and learn. You have to come in from a place of like really trying to learn and understand and listen first. This is not for approaching a card-toting racist. That's a whole nother conversation. I'm just saying in general, because most of the racist acts we're experiencing are everyday, acts of bigotry. You got to enter from a place of look, listen, and learn. Love. You already looked, listened, and learned from the beginning, but just enter from a place of trying to learn. I then say to people, have a question ready. If you come in cursing somebody out, and sometimes people catch you on the wrong day. I know it happens. I've been caught on the wrong day, and although I wanted to enter with the question, I didn't. But try to have, I like to have these what I call pocket questions. When someone says something that is racist, I have a few questions that I say. Can you help me to understand that comment? I'm sorry, can you repeat yourself? I wasn't sure I heard what you said. Can you help me to understand? If you don't remember anything else, can you help me understand is the best thing you can say to somebody. Can you help me to understand what you just said? Because it pauses the person to slow down. After they repeat it, right? Then you can appeal to their values. I believe 99.1% of people in the world don't wake up want to be racist, right? But they've been socialized in a racist society and they've learned things. So if I'm dealing with the 99.1 and not the Charlottesville Nazi, then I'm going to appeal to that person's values. I'm going to say, Ashley, I never thought of you to be a person that's unfair or a person that would perpetuate, stereotypes about Black women, right? So that's it. So then you want to employ FBI, what the situation was. Ashley, I heard you say that, Annice wearing the hair wrap and earrings, she's being really Black today. Can you help me to understand that? I never knew you to be a person that, was unfair, but, that comment, has racial undertones to it. That's the state. The situation, what happened is what you just said. The behavior, when you make that comment, impact. When you make that comment, it made me feel uncomfortable because one, Annice is our colleague, and that comment is perpetuating a stereotype about Black women. So can you help me to understand where it came from? Because, I don't want those type of comments to be said in front of me, and I want us to be able to continue our relationship. So I'm curious to know where it came from, and let's talk about it. That was a very calm way of being able to have the conversation. Sometimes you're on 30, people have pissed you off for the day, and you're just like, you don't have time to be calm. You're ready to cut somebody out. That's probably not the time for you to interrupt the comment. Because if you're really trying to bring more people along so that we can disrupt racism, cursing people out is not going to do it. So if you're having a bad day, you might just need to go inward and not handle it in the moment, but come back and talk to your colleague or come back and talk to your friend another day. Somebody put intent versus impact in there. I want that to be the first question. So those are the tips and strategies for you to use. If you want more of them, go to my website, befreewoman.com. There are a lot of videos on how do you interrupt comments that are racist and difficult conversations and stuff like that.
Thank you, Annice. I appreciate all of the wisdom that you share with us tonight. I know that everyone on the call or on the live, I should
That's
say. I
it.
appreciate it as well. So let's jump into questions.
Okay.
I think I'm going to put impact versus intent second because they're rushing in
Okay.
first, and then we'll move on just to
Okay.
respect the flow of it.
Okay.
And then I see Steph Jean Davis also added something. So let me go all the way up. So it looks like someone is asking photos.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I am not reposting any videos that are showing anybody being brutally killed personally, because that's re-traumatizing. It re-traumatizes people over again when you post videos. So I personally would caution people against continuing to post videos because it traumatizes not only Black people, it traumatizes everybody to watch someone doing that. Now you have to make a choice. You know, the video of the officer's foot on George Floyd's neck has been posted all around. And some people post it because they want to inflict shock value. That's that person's personal choice. But I believe if you're going to put that out there, then you should put some sort of message in the caption about, one, I'm not doing this to re-traumatize. I'm trying to raise awareness, you know, and maybe invite people be alive to have a conversation on it. But again, I don't believe in that because it just continues to re-traumatize people. There's other ways you can have the conversation. We had the conversation here and I didn't post anything. I'm having the conversation about video recording cops, you know, pulling over an Egyptian and Black man. I didn't post the video, but you can still engage in dialogue without posting it.
That was a great answer. Thanks for asking that question. So the second one, impact versus intent.
Yeah. Okay, so that's my favorite one. So intent versus impact. We've all heard this, right? Like, you can have the best intentions in the world, but if you impact somebody, you have to own it. My advice to anybody, if you say something or do something that is racist and somebody calls you out on it, right? Don't spend 20 minutes in the intention phase. I'm sorry, Rose. I didn't mean to do it, Rose. I apologize. Rose, say I'm sorry once. Explain
and get on with it.
You did do it. And then listen to the impact, because the impact is where you learn not to make the mistake again. If you sit in the intention and keep explaining yourself, you've now silenced the person you impacted. You've missed the opportunity for learning, and you could very well likely duplicate that action again. So apologize, stick with the impact so you don't repeat it.
Love that. See my loves as well. So we'll continue. Next question is, how can I support you and your work today? I would love to get your book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So the book is called The Power Within Me, Roll Back Home to the Real You. I will, Rose, I don't know if you can type this in the chat box, so I'm going to call on one of my students to type this in the chat box. Okay. Diana is on here. Diana, can you type this in the chat box for me? So www.beefreewoman, freewoman.com. If you go to that website, at the top, you'll see a link that says Power Within Me. You click that link, and that will take you directly to the book. And you can purchase the book on Amazon or on Barnes & Noble. I am also going to be doing speaking engagements with the book. Thank you, Diane. I'm going to be doing speaking engagements with the book, book clubs. If you host a book club with the book, I am going to show up at your last book club meeting and engage you all in a conversation. I'm also offering, coaching through that process, but you can sign up for all that. You know me already, Diana. That's why you were ready, because you all know I'll cold call you. But anywho,
you stay ready, you never gotta get ready.
Right. So that's for the Be Free Woman. If you want to learn about the book is there. The book is for everybody, not just women, everybody. I encourage you to read it. It's basically about getting unstuck and reclaiming your power. What better book to be reading right now than being in a pandemic where people feel powerless and stuff, right? It's to go through that process. It's a book that keeps on giving, because it's 8 chapters with activities for you to go through. It's written for the coaching client I'll never meet. So it's like you have me there with you. engaging you in several questions to kind of walk you through being in the highest version of yourself. And then the work I do with organizations. Okay, D, you ready? It's www.developcapacity.com. www.developcapacity.com. That's work that I do with organizations. So I would love your support. You can follow me at Annice E Speaks, and that'll link you to my other accounts. So does anybody have any other questions? Any other ways? You're welcome.
I wanted to highlight, y'all, this information that Annice is sharing is on A Rising Up. I will also repost this video just so you have that information for her website, for her book, for the information that you want in terms of her training and coaching, all the things.
Okay, looks like
so
we got
it sounds
one
like
question.
We have another question. All right, throw in the towel.
At what point do you throw in the towel? Sorry.
Do you want to read it?
No, go ahead.
You got it.
Okay. At what point do you throw in the
phone,
towel, for lack of a better term, on trying to wake someone up in their racism? It can sometimes feel very exhausting and draining, but it's important on the individual level. Champagne Franny. Oh, you added me as a friend today. I like your handle. I was like, Champagne Franny. That's clever. Okay, so anywho, yeah, it can be exhausting. And one of the things I tell people, like, if you want to be in this work for the long term, you have to have sanctuaries, which means you have to have daily practices to renew yourself, whether it's prayer, whether it's working out. Once a day, you need to take time to unplug, not think about the movement, not think about fighting racism, to recharge yourself every day. Every day, people. We have to stay healed up so we can be in it for a long term. So everybody needs a renewal practice. Right. The second thing is you have to determine how much you want to keep trying to drill home with someone. And this is an example I like to give people. How hard it was for me to get to a point where I was at a healthy view of my weight and at a healthy lifestyle. It took me a lot of years to do that. So somebody who is 35 years old, who has been believing a certain way, I'm sorry to tell you this, they're not going to just give up their beliefs because you had a conversation with them. It's just not going to happen. Some people do that. That is rare. Most people, it takes time because these are thoughts that have been in your head that have been told to you by people that you love. So a person is trying to figure out, how do I still love my grandmama? And she says these things. So, you got to have patience with people and realize change takes time. Think about how hard it is for you to change. So remember that change takes time. That's number one. So hold that. I'm not going to keep trying to convince somebody who wants to have racist thoughts that they shouldn't be racist anymore. I'm not going to exert myself in that way. I will engage you in a few conversations, not back to back every day. I will engage you in a few conversations, but if I know after the second sentence that you still stuck where you want to believe, I'm not going to exert my time and energy there. Because sometimes it takes time for people's thought processes to change. I had an example of a student when I was teaching undergrad students leadership. He thought Adolf Hitler was a leader. I said, no, he wasn't. Yeah, Adolf marshaled people, but he marshaled people towards hate. That's not leader, nor is that leadership. We had this conversation in class. Do you know that student emailed me, I kid you not, 8 years ago, 8 years later, messaged me on Facebook through my messenger and said, thank you so much for pushing me at that moment. I couldn't hear it. And now I'm teaching a leadership class, and a student asked me the exact same question. I have to respond. So I say all that to say it takes people time. I always say when I do workshops, when I do this, I just try to plant a seed. I'm just trying to plant a seed for somebody to just go back and say, what am I thinking? Am I making sense of the world? Am I making sense of the world in a way that's unjust? If I am, I'm just trying to plant a seed. Because I know that I'm not going to be able to change people right away. Sometimes it happens, but it doesn't. It takes some weeks. It takes some reinforcing. Because sometimes those people are going back in environments where other people have the exact same thought processes. So then how do they have support to shift their thinking? Hope I answered your question. The next one about white allies.
You want to read that one?
Oh, okay. When our white allies want to know what they can do now to support, what is the most tangible action they can do now with great impact? Ash, I would say the most tangible thing they can do is to go inward. And they should ask themselves, do I have beliefs of superiority over people of color? Do I have some beliefs? You're welcome, Champagne Friend. Do I have some beliefs about the world that I believe I am better than people of color? They got to ask that internalized domination question, number one. Go inward first. Then I would say to them, oh, hey, Dia, thank you for I'm like, okay, Dia, there we go. Sorry, that was my student, Ashay Jones. So first and foremost, you gotta go inward, right? Number one, white person. Tell your white ally to go inward, right? Number one. Number two, have a conversation. You don't have to share the video from George Floyd, but just bring it up with your white friends. Again, hence, I say this to people all the time. We want white people to be involved in people of color cause, but we need you to talk to your friends. We need you to bring white people with you. We need you to bring some more white people with you, right? So for me, it is have that conversation at your dinner table. Ask your mom, hey, dad, hey, brother, whoever. Have you seen this George Floyd? Start internally with your family and do the work there. Ask the question. Don't judge them if they come back and say something racist. Dig deeper. Understand. Can you help me to understand why you believe that? Get some of that training, because we need white people to help bring along more white people, because believe it or not, people can hear it sometimes better from folks that look like them. Then you want to expose yourself to readings. Follow people online. You know, Brittany Hackett. You want to start reading. Read White Like Me by Tim Wise, which is the great book about, white privilege. You know, there's a lot of anti-racist websites out there. Do your own work, but please do not expect people of color to be your living encyclopedia. Please do not, and I think this is in good faith. You know, I think white people sometimes they want to prove that they're good white people, that they're allies, and so they sometimes want to latch themselves to people of color to disassociate themselves from other white people that still have racist beliefs. And I understand why people do it in their heart, because they don't want to be seen as a racist. Just like the black person don't want to be seen, or the Latina doesn't want to be seen as an angry Latina in a race conversation, a white person don't want to be seen as a racist. We both have those fears. But rather than just try to like run and latch on to people of color, we love you, we want the help. We love you, we want it. But think about how can you bring along more white people with you, right? How can you bring more people with you? How can you bring to the table? We want it, but you also got to know when to fall back to. That's why you need to deal with your own internalized domination, because you got to know when to fall back. Because I have personally experienced white liberals or some white activists, not all, that now because they started being engaged in social justice, want in ways come in and then oppress me with some of their dominant beliefs about who should speak and who not should speak, right? Like, so that's why you got to do some of that personal work, so that you don't come in and perpetuate racism with people of color. Okay, I got time for one more question. And this video, I'll put it on my live. Rose will have it on hers. We'll put it on our websites. Hi, Tracy. Oh my God, I am loving. Oh, I just got it, Dia. Ashe. I got it. Okay. Oh my God, I love my students. Can you talk about navigating the emotion of anger and its role in resistance versus resistance? Okay, of course, okay, Elaine. I love Elaine. Elaine, Queen Elaine. Okay. You know, even the coach needs a coach. Elaine is my organization coach. She helps me keep my email and my organization life. So everybody needs coach and support in some way, shape, or form. Elaine does that for me. But anyway, I think that's a good question, Elaine, because, you know, anger is a real emotion and its role in resistance versus revenge. So I want to first and foremost say, you have to honor when you have anger. And I do believe in righteous anger, right? I believe in righteous anger because I am pissed. I have a lot of righteous anger right now because of what's going on. I'm not sitting in the anger, but I am allowed to have that emotion. You can have the emotion, just don't let it sit and fester, okay? Because there is a level of anger and frustration about what's going on. You know, some people who I thought were like, you know, ride or die activists, friends of mine have been 0 dark 30 with checking in on me. Have not said anything. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? You know, I've heard people of color and Black folks saying right now how hard it